Lucasfilm, Disney, think of the copyright strikes we're going to get.
The hell am I looking at?
Back when Luke
doing a little dance for you.
You're looking at LucasArts when it was good.
Yeah, when they had a sense of humor.
Cool ships don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then... Oh, well, no, you just flew through that one. Damn it, Luke.
Well, it's kind of hard to blow things up that are behind you. The ships shoot forward.
The title screen is using footage. Quick, hit start before we get flagged.
Well, no, it's technically cropped within it, so I don't think we'll get flagged.
Yeah, I think we'll be safe with this one. This is Rogue Squadron 2, right? Or Rogue Squadron...
No, it was Rogue Leader.
Leader. Yeah, that's right.
This is the second, whatever it is, this is the second one.
Yeah, this Rogue Leader and this Rogue Squadron. I forget. It's the second game in the series, and this is the first Gamecube game I've ever seen in action.
This was a launch title for the Gamecube.
Yeah, I was sleeping over at my uncle's house, of course. We had the GameCube out on display, and he wanted to show off Rogue Squadron, and I was amazed.
The game looked fantastic back then.
You know, but I was already getting a kick out of the dancing stormtroopers in the beginning, because there was one thing that they really wanted to emphasize with the GameCube for some reason is how many polygons can we get on the screen at once? How many character models?
You know that makes sense because another one of the GameCube launch titles was Pikmin, and you could have 100 of those little fuckers running around.
But it was a recurring theme for Nintendo for look at how many things we can fit in the screen at once. You got the dancing stormtroopers, the Pikmin concept, Pikmin itself, and Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door did.
Oh yeah, you had nowadays when you play it on a higher resolution TV, you can see that whenever they have those mobs of characters, they're all slightly lower res than the rest of the models. So I don't know. For what it's worth, the GameCube's launch titles are probably some of the best looking games on the system. Oddly enough, I've seen some footage of this.
Luigi's Mansion,
Melee, stuff like that.
Yeah. And the GameCube was pretty powerful. It was quite a bit more powerful than the PS2, and the PS2 sort of won out that generation purely by virtue of its game library because it was
DVD player.
It was the weakest of the systems once the Dreamcast fell out.
Also DVD player.
The DVD player helped a lot, but I could never get the damn thing to work. I don't know why, but DVDs and CDs just don't work very well on my system.
I think the only time I've ever seen anybody use the PS2 as a DVD player was I was at my cousin's house and we watched Ghostbusters. Only time.
Really? It was the first thing we did with my PS2. Nightmare on Elm Street was the first movie we ever got on DVD.
Okay, so if we haven't gotten flagged yet, now we're
that's why it's important that we keep the conversation going because Rogue Squadron uses the John Williams score from the films, and that's a big no-no when it comes to YouTube copyright. So
it's not like it's the most iconic film score ever made. Of course they're gonna have that flag.
So either we talk over this entire thing as much as we possibly can to drown out the music, or Ryan mutes the audio for the game for this part.
No, we just have to have the kazoo rendition of all the music.
I like how every Star Wars game in existence does the opening title crawl.
It's iconic. You have to.
This is an episode in the series. It's totally legit.
Well, to be fair, most of the
to be made non-canon 10 years later when Disney buys the franchise.
Nope.
We swear.
Nope. To be fair, these are based off of books that actually are in canon with the movies.
Are they still in canon though?
Yes, because they take place during 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's mostly stuff where they had to make up new content. That's gonna get the drop from canon. Canonicity, maybe?
Canonicity.
Canonicity. Okay,
Storyline.
Because it's mostly stuff that's before Episode 1 or stuff after Episode 6. I'm pretty sure. We'll have to wait till the movie comes out, but we have no. If Luke doesn't get married, then everything with his kids, his wife, all of that's all gone. So so is this the first real mission of the game? Because I saw there was something called Tatooine training, but I'm
learn to fly, learn to hit the A button to fire.
So I'm assuming that's just
tutorials
with no story or anything.
No, it's just tutorial.
Okay, I know this is all riveting and important stuff, but did we just blow up a giant polygonal humanoid figure that was sticking out of the Death Star's body?
It's a control tower.
It looked like a Minecraft protagonist.
Well,
Star Fox.
The Death Star is very kind of bricky. So.
Yes, it's the original '70s film. So if anything, they're just being true to the story, Lewis.
Yep.
So this
It
is
looked
this
like
the-
it was deliberately built.
This
in
is episode
humanoid
4.
form,
Ted.
though.
Oh, so we're about to kill millions and millions and millions of people.
Yes.
Luke's the hero, everybody.
Yeah, this is about. I mean, and what a way to like introduce to players to the game. Really, I mean, the first fucking
The
stage
climax for the first movie.
is the climax of the first episode 4. And and I was giddy at this point because this is 2001, 2002, right? And
2000.
that was
November 18, 2001.
and that was around the time I was first introduced to the GameCube. Before I owned the system
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
for years.
It was a launch title for the GameCube.
Yeah, so
So-
my uncle showed me at this point. At this point, I already saw the episode 4, the special edition theatrical release, so it was fresh in my mind. And to see, to finally to be in control of that event, I thought was so captivating. It's like, oh, look, I'm controlling the fighter, and I'm gonna blow up the Death Star.
Well, so many games tried to do that for so long. I mean, you had the crappy, really early 80s arcade wireframe stuff.
Yeah, there was
I mean,
another
and-
Star Wars arcade that game that was considered pretty good, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, and there were other Star Wars games that tried to do the Death Star, but I think this is the first game that really nailed it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, previous hardware was limited, so
Yeah.
they wound up getting stuck on things like
Yeah.
the trench scene. It would be entirely in the trench, and you wouldn't have much room to maneuver. This
Oh,
one,
man.
you're flying around the outside armor of the Death Star, doing like the whole frickin' battle.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, when you can get excited when you can feel the hairs on your neck rise, because the moment you go inside the trench,
And it
I was
starts
like,
playing
yeah.
the score, and
I was like, oh my god, like this is just like the fucking movie.
Why don't all licensed games get this much? Oh no, I know exactly why more licensed games don't get this much attention and love. It's because they're quick dash grabs, and so they need to be out by the time the movie's out. Otherwise, they're not getting sales. I think
And
that's
granted,
probably.
Granted,
Yeah,
there-
and this, by contrast, was released like what 20 years after the movie.
Yeah.
But it does help that Lucasfilms has their own game development
well,
department.
did.
Has same difference.
Not to mention that Star Wars is an iconic film in and of itself, as opposed to whatever the new blockbuster is out this year that needs a video game, because that's where these movies get most of their money from, is the freaking merchandise.
Merchandising.
And
The
I think
real
it's
money
a
of the
shame that
movies
the
made.
video games are pretty much, by the studios, the video game is considered just about as much of a priority as the action figure. And so, it's just that's what leads to most licensed games being terrible.
The licensed game is a commercial for the movie. No, it should be the other way around. I mean, which costs more? Which takes more time to get through? Which costs more for the person to buy?
Oops.
Ooh.
Oh.
That's it. Ryan,
And
you
then
can't
the
go
Death
for it.
Star blew
No matter
up the
how
planet.
hard you go, you cannot get alternate endings for this game.
And then the Death Star blew up the moon and of
No,
Yavin.
it wasn't. It was Moon. It was Yavin.
Yavin 4.
The Moon is Endor at 6.
Okay, well
Oh, yeah,
basically
that's
the rebel forces were destroyed, and the Empire wins. Damn it, Luke.
Because Luke Skywalker crashed into the trench ceiling like a dumbass.
Use the Force, Luke. Okay, if you say so, man.
I do kind of take issue with the transition to the trench scene being an automatic cutscene. I kind of would have liked to just fly into the trench myself, but
Oh, you can turn on the targeting computer. What does that do exactly?
It just highlights what things you need to actually shoot. And when you have it on, things that are purple are things you can destroy but aren't important to the mission or the objective at the moment. Things that are yellow are things you actually actively need to attack.
right.
Are
So,
there,
like,
do you get like bonuses for destroying purple things, or
It gives you more points, yeah. It counts to your ranking. Counts against your ranking the more you use it.
You turned off your
I see.
targeting computer or something wrong? I want to get a good score, goddammit. Luke, we're trying to save the galaxy. Is this really an important? Yes. I could shoot womp rats on Tatooine. Oh, do you shoot womp rats on Tatooine in the tutorial section?
I think so.
Oh man. Oh.
Oh,
That would
thanks, Han.
it would be Beggar's Canyon. Is
Yeah.
the training? Yeah, it's Beggar's Canyon. That's always where the training mission in these games starts. Beggar's Canyon. That one scene that should have been in the movie, but they didn't
cut for
put
time.
in, but wound up in all like the children's books and stuff.
Well, they
I'm
cut it
sure
for
that's
time.
not how you're supposed to use proton torpedoes.
Well, to be fair, the way they use them in the movie is stupid too.
The Shockwave ring is stupid, but I kind of like that special effect. It's like one of the only special edition special effects I care for at all. And I don't know why.
I really did just love the accuracy of the Rogue Squadron games, in just terms of how it was able to replicate famous events from the films, and not for nothing, not to say that there didn't exist good Star Wars games before Rogue Squadron or Rogue Leader,
the Super Star Wars
Star Wars series, while ball-bustingly hard
and having very little to do with the movies at points.
Yeah, they're still solid side-scrolling games. But that's all I can attest for, because I don't play any other. The last Star Wars game I played before playing Rogue Squadron was the fighting game on the PS1.
Oh, the really crappy one?
Yeah.
There's a Star Wars fighting game?
Yeah, there was. What was it called?
Battle at something.
Yeah, well...
I can look it up right now. Give me a second.
Can you actually pick the Millennium Falcon in this game?
Yeah, it's during certain missions. You do have limited number of choices depending on the mission.
Yeah,
but
obviously you'll need a smaller fighter for some missions anyway.
Yeah, but no, in certain missions you can't choose the Millennium Falcon, you can choose the Slave one, you can choose a B-Wing.
And eventually a Naboo fighter.
Yep.
There we go.
As well as George Lucas's 1968 Buick.
Star Wars Masters of Terraskazi or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I remember that one. I had that one.
I had the demo of that one.
It was pretty fun in a mindless way.
I remember being stiff.
I also remember playing the Episode 1 game on PlayStation.
Oh, never forget.
Oh,
what
God,
about the pod racing game? Didn't people like that?
Yeah, that was alright.
That was alright, yeah. The Pod Racer game was good. The Episode 1 movie game was freaking awful. The Episode 3 movie game on the PS3 and
no, PS2. You mean PS2?
I liked the DS Episode 3 game. It's just a Star Wars beat 'em up, and it's pretty good. It's not like great or anything, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah, the Episode 3 one was the definition of a stock licensed game released in time for the movie. Yeah. Like one of the few times Lucasfilms was guilty of that was the Episode 3 game.
Well, at least it was polished. So many of these games barely even work because they don't have enough time to get all the bugs out.
Yeah, it was polished, but at the same time, it was a weekend rental game at best.
Yeah.
The Episode 1 game was an attempt at something good that turned out terrible. And I think it was mostly because they were trying to do a little too much with it for the time.
Yeah.
And now, how good does the game control?
It controls really well.
Okay, because a lot of these, I've noticed that, I go back to a lot of GameCube games, they don't control nearly as well as I remember them. Like
it's a flying game, so you're always moving forward, so...
Okay.
Even though you're in space, and that shouldn't necessarily be an issue, but...
Well, inertia is a lot harder to stop in space than it is anywhere else.
Yeah.
Let me see. What was I gonna say? Oh, right. When you think about it, though, these kind of space fighters, they operate kind of like jet fighters because they've got all they have to work with is their engines in the back. So they were constantly going to be flying forward.
Well, to be fair, space battles would never work this way, but...
In Star Wars, I've never seen a fighter just reverse its engines and go backwards. Out of the blue.
No, wait, wasn't the Episode 2, didn't they do that? Didn't Obi-Wan do that to get away from Boba Fett? Not Boba Fett. Jango Fett or something?
Yeah, I think he was at a full stop when he did that, though.
Luke, you're driving in reverse. There's something wrong.
It's
Bagging up.
The clutch is stuck!
It's not like you'd be able to jerk to a stop, either, because the fighter, the pilot inside the fighter is still going to get massive whiplash from that, outer space or not.
Now, what type of ship are we in? Is this
we are in an A-Wing. No, this is an A-Wing.
Oh,
A-Wings. Yeah, no one ever remembers which one's the A-Wing or the B-Wing or the Y-Wing. The only one.
Well, no, people remember the Y-Wing because it's shaped like. Well, people remember a Y-Wing because it's shaped like a Y.
Well, they don't. I've never heard anyone actually call it a Y-Wing in real life, though. They just sort of recognize certain ship types.
Yeah.
On like when they see them and they don't know their names, they just sort of recognize them. And then there's the X-wing.
They'll describe the ship.
The X-wing and the TIE fighter.
For the sake of conversation, they'll just classify it as that ship, and then you have to describe the actual ship. Oh, you mean the Y-wing? Yeah, whatever. But everyone knows an X-wing.
Yeah, well, no, I think
X-wing and a TIE fighter.
Yeah, TIE fighter. Almost until we're going with the generic ships. People will know like a Star Destroyer or a Millennium Falcon or whatever.
Yeah, it's more like the more dedicated Star Wars enthusiasts that can pick out ships and tell you what they are. The A-wing is actually one of the least used ships in the movies, so hardly anyone recognizes it.
Well, it's pointless. It's just the only thing special about it is that it's fast.
Well,
yeah.
didn't for the sake of memory, was it an A ship that guy used to kamikaze into a Star Destroyer?
I think so.
I think it was.
Yeah.
But that ship was shown like very, very briefly in Return of the Jedi.
But Dan
the
is
Y-wing's
leaving
got
it
a
back.
fair bit of exposure though.
Took down an entire Star Destroyer though.
Well, because
Yep,
you hit
yep.
the command center.
He hit the command center by complete accident. It was the most inglorious way for an iconic Star Wars ship to go down, but it was awesome.
Hey, whatever works.
The guy's kind of dead though, and it's not like you can eject into a parachute because it's kind of space.
It's a good soldier. Good soldier.
It's like the only ship that isn't one of the X-wings or the main TIE wings that I ever see anyone ever caring about, not counting the Millennium Falcon, is the TIE Interceptor. The ones we're shooting down now, in fact.
Yeah.
And that's just because they look so damn cool. And when we were kids, we didn't understand things like armor disadvantages or whatever the hell is the thing about that. We just thought that is a really cool TIE fighter. It's like some epic new model the Empire came out with to destroy the rebellion or something, and that made it instantly cool, kind of like the Shadow the Hedgehog effect.
Does Darth Vader's ship from Episode 4 have a name, or is it just Darth Vader's ship?
I think it's the advanced TIE fighter.
No, I think it's actually classified as Darth Vader's ship. So don't fucking touch it.
It's just his own custom TIE fighter. Yeah. There's
It
nothing else to it.
it actually has shielding on it.
Woohoo! Now
Don't
this
touch-
is pod racing.
Don't touch Lucy.
Yeah. There's literally nothing else to that ship than it being Darth Vader's custom TIE fighter.